What's going on, everybody? It's Darian. I want to talk about some stuff. So I said I was back in my last video, and I did mean that. I am back. I'm here. I am going to be producing more videos as I am now. Times are going to have to fluctuate depending upon my work schedule. So if you've been following my channel for more than 5 minutes, you know that not only am I somebody who's very big into firearms, specifically when it comes to rifles, AR-15, AR-10 platform, and I have a lot of firearms I like to shoot. Which is probably why you even started watching my videos in the first place.
Nope.
Some of you watch them because I was in the Navy. I recently retired last year. I guess that's not recent.
Nope.
But I retired last year. I did 22 years just about in the aviation community as a helicopter air crewman. Did search and rescue. I did all the other missions involved with that. And once again, like I said, if you've been following for more than 5 minutes, you know those two. Or you also realize that I recently graduated the police academy a couple of months ago. So I am a police officer now, and I am a student. I am going through my field training or probationary period as an officer. So there's going to be a lot of times where I'm going to have to talk about that, or that will determine whether I make a video or not based on my new work schedule. I've done a lot of shift change. I've done a lot in the last few weeks, I should say, since my last video, and even prior to that, where I just wake up and have no time to do anything. Sometimes I don't even put on my good dad hat, or my dog owner hat, or even my own personal hat, let alone this YouTube hat. So, yeah. So I'm just going to get into some stuff that happened within the last week overall. So in that video that said I'm back, I ended up showing you guys a lot of my new toys that I haven't showed, like this, right? So this SIG P365 fuse. I love it. I did put the dot on it. I don't know if this dot was on the last video, probably not. But I do have the EPS carry. I think I ended up saying that, but this is actually it. I bought the EPS carry, but you didn't see it. So it's been installed. It is the green dot. I love it. I'm going to go shoot this thing again today. I've probably put 300 or 400 rounds through it already, just to break it in and to go ahead and test the optics on it, to test the iron sights on it, because that's a thing, to get the trigger pulled down. Some things I don't like about the trigger, it pinches my finger a little bit. That's just where my finger placement is. Doesn't mean I'm shooting it wrong. But that's just that. I check all my magazines and did a lot of drills with them. See how they fit, see how they don't fit. If I had any failures to eject, failures to feed, beep, bop. So either way, that's what I've been doing. I'm going to shoot this later today too. I love this firearm. However, I still love, and I said it last time, I still love this one better. And this one right here is my Springfield Echelon. It is unloaded. I love this gun. Really, really do. It's probably my favorite gun. And I was never really a Glock fan, but yeah, I was. I guess I was a Glock fanboy at some point. I am not even a Springfield Armory fanboy because I hate my Echelon. I am a Springfield Echelon fanboy right now. Love that gun. And I never thought I would, but I do. So either way, wanted to briefly get that out the way. Wanted to talk about some stuff. I did get some questions on my YouTube channel. Here's a lot of the questions I get on my comment section. Kind of wanted to go over them and then also give you an update on my current job. So I put Black Members in Special Operations Part 1 and Part 2. Clearly Part 1 gets viewed, Part 2, meh. And 3 hours ago, someone said he spent 25 years in the Army, half of it in the 82nd Airborne in the infantry, and the other half in SF. Great. He said, guess what? Infantry units were also mostly white. There was no swim test. I get it. Something about black people swimming, how he tried to say it. Most black people don't enlist to do that, and that's fine. But he said he was from the Congo. No, he's not from the Congo. He spent 6 months in the Congo back in 2012. I remember that year. I was in Japan. And found that Africans don't swim. So native Africans to the Congo do not swim. When you consider that everything in African rivers wants to kill you and eat you, it makes complete sense. That is true. We were warned not to go down by the river at night because of the mermen would get us. It literally says mermen. Now, whatever the heck that means, not like a mermaid, dude, unless that's what I thought a merman or a merman were. But either way, yeah, there are some people who don't swim due to the fact that everything in their body of water is trying to eat them. So yeah, I wouldn't be a very good swimmer either, naturally. But as I stated before, anybody in any sort of special operations, special force, special warfare type role, there's a high chance that you may need to swim. Now, if 80% are white, that doesn't matter. But I just noticed there's a lot of black people who just do not swim. And they're comfortable telling me that, like, I ain't getting in the water. And it's not that you couldn't swim, you just never learned how to swim. Matter of fact, when I was in the police academy, there were 5 of us in my academy that were black. All of them needed help swimming, except for me. So I was 20%, just being one fifth, where I was the strongest swimmer in the whole class, actually. And those were the 4 weakest swimmers in the class. And then everybody else was in between. It's just like, hey, I learned how to swim, and I thought it was pretty interesting. I thought it was cool. I learned the reasoning behind why I swim. I don't enjoy swimming all the time. I'm just good at it. So, yeah, that's that. That's a question about black people in special operations, why you don't see very many of them. You might see them in administrative roles, cooks, medical. Nothing wrong with it. It's just, historically speaking, we don't take to the water too well. Beep, bop again. Someone's asking me why I'm wearing a shirt backwards. I wasn't. And if I was, oh well. 80% lower, stop buying them. Understand your local laws. I'm curious if any of you watching this video now have seen that video. It's got over 100,000 views, and it's got a lot of good comments, and it's got a lot of bad comments. Pissed a lot of people off. And I'm fine with that. One person said he's got questions and ideas. He's from Philly and now lives in VA. That's awesome. I think that's great. And this is going to kind of segue into my next topic, which is law enforcement. So as a sworn law enforcement officer, I'm not going to violate someone's rights. The minute I get told to do that is the minute I can lay down the badge, because I don't need it. It's something I desire to do, but it's not something I'm going to give up, my conscience to do it. I believe in rights. I believe our rights are inalienable. I believe they do come from God. They don't come from government. I will say this, that God himself, and this is just me on my little soapbox, God allows governments to rule over people. If not, it would be mob rule and it would literally be the jungle, survival of the fittest. And at that point, I would be a bad person on purpose, right? Just because I'm bigger than certain people, I'm faster than certain people, and it's like, why not take advantage of you? There's no rules here. There's nobody to govern us. So then, yeah, if you have something I want, I'm taking it. But that's not right, and that's kind of the whole point of why we have government. Now, if you fail or you abuse a freedom to hurt somebody else or take their freedom, then you will lose that very right or freedom that you did have in the first place. And that's what I mean when it comes to gun laws. I am a big gun advocate. My channel is pretty obvious about that. I am not against people buying 80% lowers. I'm against people buying them ignorantly and then not knowing what to do with it. Part of it could be selfish, because maybe I'm like, man, I can't buy any lowers because they're sold out, because everyone bought them and they have no clue what the heck they bought. So there's a little bit of a personal issue with it, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't stop me. I still get them. It was just like, so people did a large panic buy, and that's where I think it's ignorant. Like, if Kamala Harris becomes president and she wants to take your guns, everyone go out and start buying all these things. If you're that person, then hey, fine. But I don't care who's sitting in the office at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. I'm going to do what I want to do tomorrow, regardless of who's up there. I have never panic bought anything. I didn't even panic buy toilet paper during the scamdemic. I didn't do that either. Sanitizer, all that stuff. I lived my life as if nothing changed, other than I was looking at how quickly America was divided over an issue that we could not see without the use of a microscope. The 6-foot distance, no one cared prior to, and no one cared after it was over. But during that time, we were so divided, and I just sat back and watched. And this is kind of how I look at everything. I approach everything to, when something comes out, before you react, just sit back and observe everybody. And know what not to do, right? And say, hey, if you're going to make, an irrational decision based on what you heard and not what you observed or not what you actually feel or are convicted, then you're going to just go with the crowd. And that's kind of what I mean by buying 80% lowers. I love 80% lowers. I have, 4 4 of them in front of me right now. But I probably have at least 12 in the room that I can see. Okay, like 8 or 9. But and I love them. And people say, why do you keep building them? Well, I have no clue why. I just really like to build them. And it's fun. And yes, I do have a lot of AR-15s, or I'll constantly keep modifying them. But it made me better. It made me a better shooter. And you would think all it is being a better shooter is doing this right here and having a good optic, which I have tons of those too. Those don't make you a better shooter. It's time on target that makes you a better shooter, and it's the application. So you can teach anybody to pull a trigger. It's when to pull a trigger, the wisdom part of that makes you a better shooter, not a better trigger squeezer, trigger puller, whatever verb you want to use to make the gun go boom. I feel that the Second Amendment is something that has not just two sides of the aisle. It's not a Republican or Democrat or conservative liberal. It's divided like a pie chart. You have some people who only think they should be used for self-defense, people who only think they should be used for military, some for law enforcement, some for both of those. I've seen a divide between that. Some who think they should only be used for hunting. And of course you have the people who just don't give a crap at all and say none of us should have them. And then you have the gang members and the criminals who definitely want them to do some of those things, but mainly to do crime. And everyone's armed, but they don't know why they're armed. So, kind of getting into a story, that was probably a little bit of a rant, which is why I said I was on my soapbox, going into a law enforcement thing. So, I am just now finishing my 5th week on the street as a cop here in Virginia Beach. And I've arrested people. I haven't chased anybody yet. Don't plan on it, unless it's a really good reason to. I'm not just chasing people to chase them to say I got in a foot pursuit. That's for the birds. Speaking of birds, I had to clean up 2 dead birds last night that were ran over. And they called a non-emergency line. You guys need to fix this. I will say being a police officer is something that opens my eyes to what society views as police officers. We are everybody's fix-it person. They call us to fix the simplest things. My last thing last night, no, not my last thing. Second to last thing was somebody called us because it was raining outside due to the storm on the East Coast. The residual hurricane stuff with things like Hurricane Debbie or whatnot. He wanted us to give him a ride a block up the street because it was raining. No, we're not a taxi service, but we are there to serve and to protect. But we don't give people rides just to be giving people rides.
Nope.
Right? It could be an ambush, it could be a setup. And not only that, that's what the rest of society is for. That's why they have taxi drivers and taxi services, Uber, Lyft. Use your pickups. Pick up your left foot, pick up your right foot, pick up your left, pick up your right. Use your dang pickups. Not us. Now, we can take you to jail, right? If you need to, I'll give you a ride clean across the county to take you to jail for that reason. But we don't just drive around looking for people to get picked up. If this was a disaster, we would do what we have to do. But just because it's raining and you don't want to walk to the next street over, that is not a good opportunity for us to do that, because in the event it happens and we say, yeah, we'll give you a courtesy ride, every person who asks, and something actually does happen, we're going to either have to kick you out wherever you are to go respond to a call that really needs our services, or take you with us and then put you in harm's way, and that doesn't make any sense. So but yeah, I've been called on everything non-criminal. I've been called on dead birds, called on people who wanted to get drunk with their phone open, have everybody Venmo their money out, and things like that, and then say everyone stole my money. I'm like, actually, no one stole anything. According to the digital footprint, you gave somebody all your money, and you can't prove otherwise. Now, once again, you can take anybody to court if you'd like, but I mean, there's just a lot of stupid things I've seen people do, and they call us to fix it, and I'm like, I can't fix that. I've got 4 of my own children. My job is not to raise your child either. We get called for that. Can you make my son go to school? Can you make my kids stop doing that? No. I can't.
Nope.
If they're not breaking the law, I'm just going to look at you upside your head. But when it comes to a lot of things, I want to talk about the Second Amendment part of policing. Yes, we all carry firearms. And not every police officer is for citizens carrying firearms. That should be no surprise. Not every police officer is conservative. Not every police officer votes Republican. Not every police officer loves firearms. And I'll tell you right now, although a large majority do feel that way possibly, it's different. The reason we carry firearms is self-defense primarily. Yes, we can use it in an opposition type way to stop a threat. But I will tell you right now, a lot of citizens who do carry firearms carry them ignorantly. And this is why I want to talk about that. To have your concealed carry license, you're supposed to go through courses. You're supposed to, and I agree with it and I disagree with the whole thing at the same time. So hear me out. The concealed carry classes that people take are supposed to educate you. It shouldn't stop you whatsoever from carrying lawfully. I think the Second Amendment, you're already protected from lawfully carrying or to lawfully carry a firearm. I will say if you choose not to take any course, it will only hinder your ability in court in the event you use it unlawfully. And it's like, okay, well, you didn't educate yourself on this, so you cannot play ignorant to the law. That's what I think it should be like. That's my own personal opinion. If you want to go ahead and carry a gun that you have no clue how to use it and you've never shot it, go for it. Help yourself, right? But if something bad happens, that's your damn fault. Like, that's your fault and that's no one else's fault. That's not the country's fault. That's not the state's fault or anything like that. So I see why states try to attempt regulation on things like that so we can actually have less crime, which turns out to be more crime. People don't secure their weapons. They get stolen all the time. I've responded to a burglary where someone broke into a man's house, stole his weapon. And so now there's a weapon out there on the street. Now we have the serial number for it. And doesn't stop it from getting etched out or scratched out. But there's a weapon right now that I've already responded to that is gone. That's out there, most likely being used for more crime. So breaking, entering, and robbing somebody's house or burglarizing somebody's house, there you go. There's a weapon out there. It was not secured. It was not secured in a lockbox or a safe. It was out in the open, and I'm guilty of a lot of that myself. And you can't just think when people say, well, how do we stop this from happening? Well, you can't.
Nope.
Some things you're just going to have to accept. You're going to have to accept that today somebody's going to die by a car crash somewhere in the country. You're not going to stop it. It's just inevitable. It's going to happen. So people are going to leave their doors unlocked in their vehicles. They're going to get stuff stolen. And we're going to respond and still look at them and just be like, wow, okay, so you left your door unlocked. Yep. Okay, they stole your firearm. Okay, great. I'm taking my report down. I'm looking at them upside their head, as I should. And then say, okay, we'll be on the lookout for it, but I'm not finding your firearm or I'm not finding other things because I can't, right? If you don't have any Ring cameras, doorbell cameras, or anything like that, you're not helping your own cause. You just aren't. So when you say someone stole something from me, I'll go ahead and fingerprint you. And I've had this happen before too, to get what we call elimination prints. If you're not familiar with elimination prints, we take your prints to eliminate them from any of them that we pick up. So if we find prints in a house or on a vehicle and it matches you, we'll say, oh, disregard, that's the owner who clearly touches everything, or a family member, friend who touches a lot. We'll get your elimination prints, and the ones we don't know, that could be the possible suspect. So when we ask them to comply and give us their fingerprints and they say, oh no, I'm not giving you my prints, I don't want to be in the system. It's like, well, why did you call me? Because someone stole your firearm, but yet you don't want to be in the system. I'm going to tell you right now, if you have any government issued ID of any sort, maybe not school, but if you have a driver's license, a normal ID card, a passport, a military ID, a work ID, you're already in the system. If you got a social security number, for the most part, you're in the system. I already know. I can look at your plate tags when you're driving and find out where you live based on that alone. And there's so much. I can just look at your phone number and find out who you are. And then from there, find out what your social is and your favorite ice cream. And there are certain things that, yes, we're all in the system. I'm in the system, probably more than you, because now I have other credentials that get flagged or things that pop up and say, hey, this person does or does not. Whether you have a concealed carry license, you're in the system. Sometimes you're in, sometimes you're not. I've ran people in the system and they did not have a concealed carry license, but they literally had one. And I was like, okay, is this a fake permit or is it just not updated in the system? That thing happens. Technology will fail sometimes. But I wanted to talk about one case specifically, and it's still pending. I still have court for it, so I'm not going to name names or anything. I got to change the story up just a little bit. But it was a brandishing case. And if you don't know what a brandishing case is, it's somebody who takes a firearm and waves it at somebody in a threatful manner, or to the point where the victim feels threatened by the use of a firearm that was held. And that is an arrestable offense. I do not have to see it. If there's a decent story and I have enough probable cause, you are going to jail in the state of Virginia, specifically for brandishing a firearm. And a lot of people will say, well, he had a concealed carry. Well, he felt threatened for his life. I'm going to tell you right now, this dude was in no threat of his life. And that is up to me as the officer to determine the threat. If you're running from somebody and you guys get into an assault, you guys start fighting, and then you walk away from him and you got 15, 20 feet distance and you're on the other side of the street, and then you reach it. Excuse me. You reach in your book bag or you reach under your shirt and you pull out a gun, and the person's not advancing on you, you are in no threat at all. And at this point, you are now brandishing a firearm. And it's no different than us as police officers. We cannot just pull our guns out on everybody. We open carry for obvious reasons. For one, it deters a lot of crime. But it lets people know I know how to use everything on my tool belt. And if need be, I will use everything on my tool belt. That's the whole point of police wearing the stuff that we have, the tasers, the batons, the OC spray, the firearm, all of that. But when you conceal carry, the whole point of concealing is no one can see it. So the minute that you actually present it, it should never be for the purposes of threatening somebody. It should be like, if I draw the sword, I intend to use the sword. And now I'm not telling you if you conceal carry, the minute you pull it out, you better start banging it. But as somebody who carries, I'm never had to do that. If you see me conceal carrying, it's because I reached up in the store to pick up something off the shelf and my gun was visible at some point. But I would never just draw my firearm with the intent to scare somebody, because that is considered brandishing a firearm. Now, yes, if I was actively being beat up or something and I draw it and then that de-escalates it, that's different. But yeah, so I arrested somebody straight up for brandishing a firearm. And that firearm is locked up right now in property and evidence. So not only are they... Now, he's already out of jail. He didn't even have to go to jail. He didn't even have to get processed that day. But he has to go to jail initially to get booked. And then the whole process... I'm seeing it from a Second Amendment process of like, you can lose your rights. This person had a concealed carry license. I say, not only can you lose that, you most likely will. Maybe, depends on the judge, depends on the prosecutor, the attorney. You can lose that. Then you can lose your rights in general because you violated them. You violated someone else's rights and think that yours trumps theirs. And that's not the way it works. So you took an authority that you had and you abused it. That's exactly why the police step in. And that's why when people say, I'm free to do whatever I want, no, you're not. I'm just going to tell you right now, no, you are not. You are free to do whatever you want within the law that the rest of society said, we accept this as our normal. You are free to move within this box. The minute you step outside the box, everybody else is going to say, okay, you're not playing by the rules anymore. So since you decide not to play by the rules, we don't either. And then we'll either take your life, take your property, take your stuff, and then take your freedom. And then they say, oh, that's not cool. It's like, you knew this was going to happen. And I'm not saying I have this socialist mindset, because I don't, but I do believe, and that's why it's called liberty within law. You are free to move about this area. You're free to do whatever you'd like within the confines of these laws. That's why you can't just go out there murdering people. It's illegal. You can't, but you say, I'm free to do what I want. If you want to murder somebody, you are not free to do that. And that's why there are consequences. Same thing when it comes to firearms. People say, I can own whatever firearm I want. To a point, that's true. The right to bear arms shall not be infringed. I do believe that. I believe everybody should have the right to bear arms. I don't believe there should be any age restrictions on it. That's how crazy I am with it. But I will say, once again, if a 10-year-old has a firearm and they do something unlawful with it, whoever their legal guardian should, to me, shall pay for that. Not like, oh, well, they did it. I don't care. But you're the one responsible for it. Like, you know, if your dog bites somebody, the dog is going to get punished and may get put down. I will say the legal guardian or parent is still going to be punished. You can get sued. You may even face jail time or criminal, for criminal matters as well. And people just don't like the ownership of it anymore. And that pisses me off. So when it comes to firearms, I need people to understand, yes, you're free to do with it whatever you want within the law. So when I said understand your local laws, when it came to 80% lowers, when it came to this thing right here, such a controversial piece of metal, people say I can build what I want. I can put whatever magazine capacity I want. I can do this what I want. Okay, go for it. And that law that the group decided that you live in, because you have a choice to live there. If you can buy a firearm and you got to be 21 or 18, you are obviously old enough to make adult decisions. You should be. And if you choose to live in an area that you feel your rights are violated, then move your ass somewhere that they're not. No more excuses. I feel 0% bad for people like that. I used to feel bad, but I don't anymore.
Nope.
And I'm not saying that I become jaded to it. It's just like, hey, I hear a lot of people make excuses about just random stuff. And I'm like, okay, that's not my fault. But everything happens in your life for the most part is your fault. It doesn't have to be good. I'm not saying if you get robbed tomorrow, it's your fault. But that's not mine either. So, understand your local laws when it comes to buying firearms. Because what you do in North Dakota, you may not be able to do in Virginia. And what you do in one area of Virginia, you may not be able to do in Virginia Beach. Because people have different city ordinances and other things like that. And they do, for the most part, and they're not always right, most of the laws I've read are still within the confines of the overall or overarching law. And people say, shall not be infringed. I'm like, oh no, you can have a firearm. Oh, you can have this many mags. You can have this capacity of a magazine. But you can't have it within these parameters based upon XYZ. That's why you can't take firearms into federal buildings. And you say, well, I'm free to do what I want because I'm American. I'm free to carry because the Second Amendment. I'm free to do this. It's like, okay, well, try that out in certain buildings and see how far your liberty will go. You will get snuffed out so quick. And not only that, if you don't get snuffed out, you're going to get locked up, your property will be gone, your rights will be gone, and you turn yourself into a felon. I'm seeing it happen all the time now. And it makes me think, like, do these people realize it's a losing battle? It's a losing battle. And it's not because police are corrupt and we're gonna take your rights. We don't take your rights. You give up your rights. That's kind of the whole thing. Like, we don't take people's driving privileges away. You give them up based on driving like an idiot. I'm just the person to remind you you're doing something that you're trying to lose your rights. Here's your ticket. Stop pointing guns at people who aren't a threat to you any longer. Here's your handcuffs. Here's your freaking misdemeanor. And it starts to make me understand a lot more. So I'm going to tell you that as a law enforcement officer, there's plenty of crazy stuff I've seen already. I've already responded to death investigations. I went from helping people at a death to just earlier, 6-7 hours ago, I was changing a tire in the rain for somebody who had no clue how to change their tire. And it was a disabled vehicle that was going to start impeding traffic. So I activate my emergency flashers and I go ahead and tell dispatch what I have. I decide to get out and help this person change their tire out, get my uniform wet, don't even care about it. And they say, thank you for what you do. Who cares about what anybody says about you? And I'm like, yeah, but I just took somebody's firearm last week because they decided to abuse their authority to carry. So that's me talking about guns. Now, like I said, I'm already on the topic of firearms. I'm about to literally load up a bunch of these mags right here and go shoot with a really good friend of mine. So yeah, that's my video. I'm going to come back with more. Please let me know what you guys would like to see more of from me. I have lots of things to talk about, but I don't want to just get on there and rant, kind of like I'm doing now. If you want to see certain military videos, let me know. If you want to see videos about shooting, let me know. If it's about policing, let me know. I mean, matter of fact, I even have a knife sharpener that's better than a lot of knife sharpeners out there. And I've got plenty of blades and stuff like that. I've got plenty of optics. I've got plenty of holsters and things like that. Because if you watch my channel, I assume you watch the other channels that are much, much larger than mine as well. And some of them have more experience on the subject matter, and some don't. Some just have a really good following, and they have good advertisement and good staff members and stuff like that, but they probably don't know what the hell they're talking about. And then other ones know exactly what they're talking about, and they have all the staff and all that production to back it up. So yeah, just wanted to talk about that very briefly. So kind of the things that happen in the police academy, my previous jobs, what I like to do. Currently what I do, like I said, 80% lowers are my thing. I'm very much into them. I suggest you get one if you can lawfully get one, get one. Try it out. You'll understand your firearm so much more, but do it within the law where you live. So yeah, that's my video. Thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever. I'm out. Peace.